Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Numerics with Nadia. In today's lesson, we're going to continue learning how to add and subtract positive and negative integers. If you guys haven't watched last week's video yet, I would definitely recommend watching that one first. We went over a lot of the rules in that introductory video, so I would go through that one first before getting into this lesson. For this lesson, we're going to review some of the rules that we went over in the last video, as well as doing a lot of practice with adding and subtracting positive and negative integers. Practice is really the way to learn, so we're going to do a lot more practice in this video. To start off, we're going to go over another rule, and in this rule, we're going to approach every problem with 3 steps. We're going to look at our first number, that's going to be our starting point. We're going to look at our sign, that's the direction. And then we're going to look at the second number, and that's going to be how we move. So for our first example, to demonstrate this, we have 6 minus negative 3. And let's go through and label this according to the rule that we just wrote. So the 6 would be our starting point. The sign, here it's subtracting, would be the direction, and then negative 3 is going to be how we move. We will still go through and use number lines for the first few examples in this video, but after those examples and by the end of this video, we should be able to add and subtract positive and negative integers without the number line. But for this one, we'll go through, we'll draw our number line, we'll go out to 6, and let's simplify what we're given. 6 minus the negative 3, we know from our last video that 2 minus signs turn into a plus sign. So here we're just doing 6 plus 3. Adding, we move to the right, and we are going to move 3 spaces. So 6 plus 3 gives us 9, and that is how we would approach our first example. So now that we've gone through our 3-step rule, we're going to apply that to the rest of our practice problems. For number 1, we have 8 plus negative 12. 8 is our starting point. We are adding, so that would be our direction. And then our second number is going to be how we move. So for this one, when you add by a negative, I'm going to write a little hint for us. Adding by a negative is the same as just subtracting. So when you see that, I want you guys to simplify it to just subtracting, which we will do here as well. 8 plus the negative 12, adding a negative, is the same as subtracting, so we'll write 8 minus 2. We'll go through and we'll write out our number line. We'll draw our 0. We'll go out 8 places, and now we're just subtracting by 12. Subtracting means that we will move left, so that will be represented by our red arrow. We're going to be going in that direction, and we are moving left 12 spaces. So when we go out by 12, we end up at the negative 4 tick mark, if we count that out. So we get 8 minus 12 to equal negative 4 for number 1. Now we'll move on to our second example. For number 2, we have negative 4 plus negative 5. And again, here we are adding by a negative. So adding by a negative is the same as subtracting. So let's rewrite that. We would end up having negative 4 minus 5. So we'll draw out our number line. The negative 4 is our starting point. We are subtracting, so that is our direction. We will be moving left, and we will be moving left 5 units. So we're going to move left. When we move left 5 units, we end up at negative 9 if you count all the way out. So negative 9 would be our answer for number 2. Now we'll move on to our third example. Number 3 will be the last problem we do with the number lines. For number 3, we have negative 11 plus 7. So this one we have a negative, and then we're adding a positive. Negative 11 would be our starting point, so we will draw our number line. We will label our 0 and the negative 11, since that's our starting point. So once we do that, we know that we are adding here, And when we add, we move to the right. So I will label that for us. And we will be moving right 7 units, right? So we'll start at our -11, we'll move right 7 units. And when we do that, we end up with -4 for our answer for number 3. So now that we've done 3 problems with the number line, for number 4 and the rest of our practice problems, we're going to make it a little bit more difficult to kind of test our knowledge. So for number 4, we're going to have a longer problem. We have -7 minus -3 minus 2 plus 1. And we're going to start off with the -7 minus -3. And again, this is the rule from our last video. When you have double negatives, they turn into a positive. So that ends up being -7 plus 3. And we'll rewrite the rest of the equation as well. And again, we're going to do these one at a time. So we're again going to start at the beginning. Now we're looking at -7 plus 3. The -7 plus 3, well, the -7 is bigger than 3, right? So we know our answer is going to be negative. We are adding 3 to -7, so our answer will be less negative, and our answer will be -4. So it's basically like 7 minus 3, and we're going to add that negative sign in. Then we'll rewrite the rest of the equation, -4 minus 2 plus 1. Now we're looking at the -4 minus 2. -4 minus 2, our answer is getting more negative. So we'll add the 4 plus the 2 and make that negative. So that would be -6 plus 1. And we know that by just adding 1 to -6, that brings us up 1 tick bar. So that would be -5 for our answer for number 4. So I know that one was a little bit challenging. Feel free to pause the video, rewatch at that point before moving on to number 5. Number 5 is a similar type of problem, more going on. We have 11 minus 8 plus 6 minus -4. We know that 11 minus 8 is just 3, right? So we'll write our 3, rewrite the rest of the equation. Now we're looking at 3 plus 6. We know that 3 plus 6 is just 9. And then we have 9 minus that -4. Again, this is the double negative rule. Double negatives turn into a positive, so it's essentially 9 plus 4, which we know is 13. Now we'll get into our last 2 practice problems for today's lesson. For number 6, we're going to have bigger numbers. We have 19 minus 21 plus -6 minus -7. So again, we're going to start from left to right. We'll start with the 19 minus 21. We know that 19 minus 21, it's kind of like 21 minus 19. We're going to make that negative. So that would be -2. Then we'll rewrite the rest of our equation. Now we're looking at -2 plus -6. When we add by a negative, it's like subtracting. So let's rewrite it like that. Now we have -2 minus 6. Our answer will be more negative, right? Because we're moving left. So it would be -8. And now we have -8 minus -7. Again, the double negative rule, that turns into adding. And -8 plus 7, well, that would just be -1. So -1 would be our answer for number 6. And now we're on to our last problem for today's lesson. For number 7, we have -31 plus 15 minus -24 plus -19. So this one does have bigger numbers, and with bigger numbers, it's going to be harder to draw out the number lines. So we're going to do this one in our head as well. We know that -31 plus 15, well, the 31 is greater than the 15, right? So we know that our answer will have the same sign as that -31. Now what we'll do is we'll do 31 minus 15. 31 minus 15 is 16. But since our 31 is negative, our answer will also be negative. So the -31 plus 15 will give us -16. We'll rewrite the rest of the equation. Now we're looking at -16 minus 24. So since we're at a negative and we're subtracting, our answer will just be a bigger negative number. So that means that we can add. 16 plus 24 is 40, and it will be negative. So so we'll get negative 40. And then we'll just rewrite the plus negative 19. And again, when we add by a negative, it's like subtracting. So negative 40 minus 19. For this, since we're already at negative 40 and we're subtracting 19, we know that we're going to end up with a bigger negative number again. So we'll go ahead and add 40 and 19 together. When we do that, we get 59. But we know that our answer will be negative, right? Because we were moving in the left. So our answer for number 7 will be negative 59. All right, you guys, that is it for today's lesson. I know we went through a lot of examples and we went through them pretty quickly. So feel free to rewatch the video. Feel free to follow along those last few examples with number lines as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please feel free to comment any questions you might have down below. I will make sure to respond to them. Comment any other videos you'd like to see. Don't forget to like and definitely subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time.